Tom Barclay outside the King Power after what has been a very frustrating night from Tottenham's perspective. Before we get into the actual game, let's talk about Rodrigo Bentancur and his injury status. It seems like, thankfully, he's okay. He's up and conscious and talking in the dressing room, Ange Postecoglou said afterwards. And that is a big relief, given that he looked like he was in a real bad way when he had this sort of sickening collision with the ground, and also perhaps Fatawu as he went for a jump for a corner, and we had about an 8-minute delay. The Spurs players looked very worried, calling for medics to come over, and the stretcher came on and he was given oxygen as he came off, but thankfully it looks like he should be okay, given that he is up and talking already. Onto the game. I mean, what a bizarre match, and one that's particularly frustrating from Potter's point of view. Ange Postecoglou cut a very frustrated figure in a pretty brief press conference afterwards, just getting frustrated from what he's seen a lot last season when it comes to the team being pretty wasteful. He talked about the number of chances that Spurs cut out for in the first half in particular, which they were completely dominant, and were playing some scintillating football. James Maddison in particular, back on his old stomping ground, looked like his old self. There was loads to be positive about, and obviously Pedro Porres scored the goal, proving to be a fantasy football icon once again, with a nice header from Maddison's cross. And it looked like Spurs would just only go from strength to strength from there, but they missed chances. I mean, Johnson had a good chance across the box. In the second half, Solanke missed a good chance, and I thought Solanke had a pretty decent debut, particularly off the ball. He had loads of great work rate, which is what we know he can bring to this team. But perhaps that missed chance before Vardy equalised sort of summed up where, there are very few finishers who can ever get to the quality of Harry Kane. But we just know Dominic Solanke is not going to be that, and that was probably a case in point. He brings a lot of qualities, and I'm sure he'll score plenty of goals for Spurs, but that was a big chance. Bentancur had a good chance straight after that as well, obviously long before he had that injury. But Spurs must be kicking themselves, because then Vardy, who Steve Cooper said afterwards wouldn't have even been playing this game had it been yesterday or Saturday due to his injury, his fitness, pops up, scores that header, scores his 8th goal against Spurs, I think it is, or maybe 9th goal against Spurs, 8th goal on opening day, and he's 37. He's just amazing. He just keeps going. He's a phenomenal player and phenomenal physique for a player who just keeps on going. But from there, to be honest, Spurs really maybe lucky that they didn't lose. Vardy had a good chance later on, and it was a good save from Vicario. Obviously, Richarlison could have won it at the end with a header, which he headed over. But yeah, all in all, a kind of a strange evening. I mean, obviously, Vardy gave it to the Spurs fans as he came off, pointing to his badge, his Premier League badge, pointing out that he'd won one and Spurs had won 0, before telling Christian Romero to F off as he came off, which I'm sure will enamour him further to the Spurs crowd, but not that he'll care. But yeah, Spurs, there was so much to be sort of excited about in that first half, but the same old problems that we saw last season. Postecoglou regularly talking about not getting enough bang for their buck from the attacking players, was something that he definitely hopes to address this season, and it must be frustrating from his point of view to see it crop up straight away in the first game. Johnson in particular, I thought was good off the ball, but looked a bit off it when with his touch and his chances. Son didn't really create much in the second half. It was interesting to see. I've never seen 4 subs made at once when Bergvall, Gray, Werner and Kulusevski all got brought on, and they were going to come on regardless of the Bentancur injury. That actually they were all prepped to come on, and then Bentancur got injured. And that was interesting. The fact that he was turning to particularly those young players in Bergvall and Gray when the score was at 1-1, so it shows the faith Postecoglou has in young players. But yeah, Spurs looking brittle again at the back as well, something that we've seen throughout the season. And I know they'll concede goals in the way Postecoglou plays, but he'll be frustrated with that. And yeah, I mean, there's not really much more to say really. The fact that they had it in the with the palm of their hands. They had the result right there, and they let it slip. Cooper said after the game that he felt like a lot of his players and Spurs players and a lot of players across the weekend of the Premier League looked a little bit like they weren't quite up to it fitness-wise, not quite sharp as they would be when they're really, really going for it. So you've got to hope from Tottenham's point of view that is the case, and in time they will get there and be a bit sharper, and these kind of situations won't arise like we saw tonight. And it's not a defeat, even though it must feel like one to a certain extent for Spurs fans. So I guess they have to build from here. But given how well they were playing and how utterly dominant they were in the first half and the first 57 minutes really before Vardy scored, overall just a very disappointing start to the season from Tottenham's perspective.